All right, we are live, and it's a new year, it's a new you, it's a new show. Welcome to 2021, and welcome back to Three in the Key, brought to you by Fine Bet. Me and two of the coolest dudes in sports journalism break down the NBA from matchups to social media shade to fashion. I'm Dan Tran, and here with me is Sandeep Chandok, aka Sandeep Ball Drop, in honor of the new year. Henry Curi couldn't be with us today, but he is with us here in spirit. Sandeep, you got any resolutions for us today?
Uh, I'm trying to dunk by the end of the year. No,
Are
I'm
you
just
doing that
kidding.
air alert? Are you doing that air alert or what, dude?
Dude, I've been trying to dunk for the past like 5 years, and every time I see my boy Chris and we hoop together, he's like, "Bro, you've been saying that for the past 5 years. It's not gonna happen." I was like, "I know."
All right, so Sandeep wants a 40-inch vert, and I'm looking. My resolution is to make enough money to get a PS5. So we're just gonna hope for the best for this year, I guess, because 2020 sucked. 2021 is gonna be way better. So you're gonna dunk, and I'm gonna get a PS5. All right, dude. Let's talk about NBA headlines. The biggest one this past week for us was Becky Hammons, man. First woman to ever be a head coach in the NBA. Took nearly 75 years, but she was the first woman ever to act as a head coach during an NBA game. And that happened when Greg Popovich, the Spurs head coach, hit Hammond with "You got him" after getting ejected from Wednesday's game just before halftime. Now, it's not the first time she's been a head coach. She was the head coach for the Spurs during Summer League when they won the championship. And her name has been connected with multiple head coaching vacancies in past years. USA Online Sportsbooks had Hammond as a long shot to get the Pacers head coaching gig this past offseason at plus 750. She's objectively qualified, but is the league ready for a woman as a head coach in the league? Sandeep, let me know.
Yeah, it's crazy that you say it's been 75 years and this is the first time the NBA has had a female as a head coach. Like it's ridiculous when you think about it. They're definitely ready. They're beyond ready. The NBA is the most progressive league, as we all know. Of all the major sports, the way they handle, social issues or things like this, where it's just like it's great. First of all, that Becky Hammon finally got to coach in the regular season, but it shouldn't have to be a story. If you get what I mean, like it should be like
Oh
the
my God,
normal already.
yeah,
So
dude. Yeah, it's like I've been saying this like for the last 5 years since she was taken on as the Spurs assistant. That women keep breaking these glass ceilings that we feel like, especially our generation, is just like a given. It's supposed to be happening, but it's kind of sad that we kind of have to celebrate, but we have to celebrate, because these are milestones that we never thought could happen, but have happened, and we're just so happy that it is happening for Becky Hammon, and it opens up a completely new world for women who want to coach NBA basketball, who maybe didn't think about it before. Do you think, like, when do you think Becky will get the opportunity? Within the next year, within the next five? Like, what do you think is going to be the kind of the timeline for her for this opportunity?
I think it could be within the next year because you mentioned that she was up for the Pacers job prior to this season, and even though maybe the odds weren't in her favor, she was still interviewing for that job. And that's a big step forward. So I think by the end of this season, especially with the way Pop works, and he'll probably get ejected on purpose a few more times. Like I feel like Pop's just that type of guy, like such a good guy, that he'd do that just for Becky's sake, so she could coach a few more times, and hopefully sooner rather than later. But if there's a bet going on right now, send me that link and I'll put money on it right now that she'll be a coach by the start of next season.
Man, how many stacks? How many stacks though?
I'll put down like $100.
All right, all right. I like it. I like the confidence. All right, so we have her right now as the assistant coach for the Spurs, which is a great organization, grade one organization within the NBA. Do you think that she should wait for Greg Popovich to leave the head coaching spot vacant and just continue her journey with that team, or do you think that she should jump ship into like a more unfamiliar territory? Because obviously she's been treated really well by the Spurs. She's going to go into a team that doesn't really have a history with her. All they know is that she knows basketball. Do you think that she should make that leap to another team, or do you think that she should stay safe in the confines of the Spurs?
That's a good point you bring up because I think Popovich, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's on the last year of his deal and he hasn't signed an extension yet. And maybe because he's getting close to that point where he wants to retire, right? And maybe there's been internal talks of that too, of him retiring after the season and Becky Hammon maybe taking over, which I think would be great for her because she's obviously already familiar with the organization. They got at this point they're rebuilding, right? DeRozan's on an expiring, Aldridge's on an expiring. You have the young guys over there with Derek White, Keldon Johnson, who's been on a tear, and a few others. So DeJounte Murray, and you could build around those guys. It'll be kind of not that Becky Hammon can't handle a high pressure situation, but it'd be a good starting point for her to just build with like a young team and be able to build it up. And the Spurs are a very professional organization and classy, and so if that's a job that's on the table, I don't see why she would go somewhere else when she's already in San Antonio.
Yeah. But if we were to kind of project where she might go, where do you think would be the best place for her other than the Spurs organization?
Well, then I think the question we got to follow that up with is which team, what are going to be like the worst three teams this year, right? Because those are the jobs that'll probably open up. The Knicks just hired Thibodeau, so that's off the table. Maybe the Magic could end up being a spot because they're probably going to. I feel like they're going to take a step back this year, especially if they do end up dishing Aaron Gordon out somewhere before the trade deadline. So the Magic is one team that could open up. Western Conference, I feel like it's pretty stable right now in regards to coaching. Like I don't see anyone off the top of my head that I could see getting fired after this season. I mean, it just depends, but it's going to definitely be one of those bottom tier teams, or who knows, maybe it's one of the teams that like underperforms and is supposed to do better than it was in the playoffs, right? Like the Bucks. Shit, what if the Bucks get bounced in the second round again, or in the Eastern Conference Finals? Do they fire Mike Budenholzer and then bring in Becky Hammon? That would be insane.
Right. I know. Like I'm looking at the list of the worst teams right now. I got some surprising teams. I mean, the Denver Nuggets are on the bottom of the Western Conference, but I don't think they move on from Mike Malone because eventually they're going to do better. That's like the thought. You got OKC also at the bottom of the Western Conference. They got Billy Donovan there though, but Sam Presti, he's been known to make some like pretty crazy moves with
Billy Donovan in Chicago, by the way.
Oh yeah. My bad. That's my bad. Yeah, Billy Donovan. I mean, even Chicago. Like if Chicago like underperforms, they might just cut tail and leave, and then she takes over the franchise that Michael Jordan kind of like made famous. It's just so many possibilities out there for her. Like it just seems like there is no bad place for her to go. I don't think there's a team that wouldn't want to take a chance for her on her because it just seems like she's just set up so well, learning from Popovichs for the last couple of years.
It's not just that too. It's like people like she played in the WNBA for 15 years or so, and so she has the basketball experience. 15 years, not in that amount of time, you learn a lot about the game, and your IQ hopefully goes up. Can't say the same for everyone in the NBA because there's guys who've been in the NBA for a long time, still don't know like the ins and outs, the X's and O's of hoops, But Becky Hammon has always been one of those highly regarded players. She's a Hall of Famer in the WNBA, and her transition to the NBA as a coach has been flawless. She had success, like you mentioned, with the summer league team, a couple of years back in 2019, and so she's well respected, well regarded. I think whether it's with the Spurs or another organization, she deserves a shot. And, I think it'd be great if she stayed in San Antonio because I think that's very realistic. But regardless, I'll put my money down and say by next season, she'll be coaching a team somewhere in the NBA.
Yeah, I love it. And she was able to do that before the year ended. But since it is now the new year, 2021, we have some resolutions that we want to kind of hand out to these teams because we're seeing some really great stuff out there and we're seeing some really poor stuff out there. But let's start with a team that is doing really well right now. The Atlanta Hawks, man. The Atlanta Hawks, they are just killing it right now. And I have a resolution for them. And I think because they're so successful, my resolution for them is to stay out of the club. Stay out of the club. Everybody just stay away from those situations. I mean, we're talking about the Hawks who are now tied for the top of the Eastern Conference. Best offense in the league, led by Trae Young, who's averaging over 30 points a game. And John Collins is just, progressing from what he did last year. Now, the only thing that can stop him, in my opinion, on that side, on the side of the offense, is prolonged exposure to one of Atlanta's fine gentlemen's establishments. So I think that in order for them to sustain their success, they need to, really focus in on this basketball thing. What do you think, Sandeep?
Yeah, as long as they're not going to the home of Lou Williams, where they got the lemon pepper wings, just stay away from there.
Lemon
Like
Pepper Lou, my boy Lemon Pepper
Magic
Lou.
City, Magic City. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, stay away from Magic City. Focus on hoops, and it seems like that's what they're doing. I mean, I was reading an article on The Athletic earlier this morning, and John Collins, was talking about how they've all been focused in, and he also said that they proved they're a contender in the East by beating the Nets yesterday night. And I'm like, all right, bro, chill. That was one regular season game. Like, it was a great win. Like, you beat one of the better teams in the NBA, but you haven't proved anything yet. But
man, I love that youthful confidence, though, man. You got to stay confident in this league. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is. So if they're saying that they're contenders now, I kind of want them to either sustain that, or I want them to flame out, because either way, it's going to make for a great story. Now,
it's already making for a great story. Like, I love the confidence too. I love the confidence. And they're 4-1 right now. Like, and that one loss was to the Nets. That ended up being a close game. And it was like, I think they scored like a combined 280 points or something like that. It was wild.
Disgusting game.
They have the right to talk early on. They still obviously have a lot to prove. My resolution for them is to stay out of the bottom tier of the East. So be like a top 6 seed, because that 7 to 10 range is going to be the playoff or play-in game this year, right, for the postseason. So be a top 6 seed, which I think is very doable with the roster they have.
Yeah, and I think that with the season the way it's kind of progressing right now, it just seems like they're set up for you're right, they're set up for the playoffs just in general. But in order to get that top 6 in the East specifically, I think it's totally within reach. We were talking about confidence. Like, the Hawks are playing with a lot of confidence. They have a lot of confidence in themselves. One player I want to talk about where it doesn't seem like he has any shortage of that is Lamelo Ball. And, what he's been doing in the league so far, he's had limited minutes, but in those minutes, I think he's been pretty productive, and I think you can see the potential there. So for Lamelo Ball specifically, I want to say stay cocky. I want him to stay confident, because Charlotte needs something to talk about ever since Kemba left. And I think that he brings a certain gravitas to that city. And I think he's the perfect player to really, make Charlotte his own and, help that team kind of explode with the Jordan brand and everything like that. So if you had a resolution for Lamelo Ball, what would you say, Sandeep?
I would say don't take Jordan's advice, because the ceiling is not the floor. Your ceiling is higher than that, Lamelo, okay? Your ceiling is higher than the floor. I still think he was the best talent in the draft. There's a handful of really good players, and he was always the most talented guy to me. And, Charlotte was lucky that he fell to number 3. And, you say he should make Charlotte his own. It's like, he doesn't even want to do that. Like, he's such an unselfish player, right? We've seen the passes he's been making. He's such a careless guy. He likes to get his teammates involved. And I think we could see him bump up into the starting lineup very soon. He was my pick for Rookie of the Year. So that's my resolution for him, is to go out and, win that award. And I don't know if you saw the box score last night from that game, but Terry Rozier and Devontae Graham went a combined 2 for 23 from the floor, which was terrible. And it's an off night, I'll give them kind of some slack, but both those guys are 6'2", and small guards. Neither are really known for their defense. And
volume shooters, man. Volume shooters.
I think one of them has to get moved to the bench. Which guys are going to be, I don't know. But they need some more length, and size in that starting lineup. And LaMelo's a point guard who's 6'8" and has almost a 7-foot wingspan. He can be a disruptor on defense. And with his playmaking ability, it would allow either Rozier or Graham to play off the ball. So he's got to get bumped up into the starting lineup ASAP.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Now we're talking about young talent. Let's talk about another young talent, Luka Doncic, man, MVP candidate. But dude, if I were to give this guy a resolution right now, it'd be to, like everybody else, when there's a new year, I'm going to tell you to get into the gym. Get to the gym, Luka, because this guy looks like he's a little bit husked right now. But even though, he looks like he's a little out of shape, still averaging like 24.6 points, 7.6 rebounds, 6.4 assists, but he's shooting 16.1% from 3-point range. I mean, imagine if he wasn't like looking like he's playing back into shape. He could be like a runaway MVP candidate, but we wouldn't know that right now because, we're too distracted by, his waist size. Like, and I really want him to be successful. Sandeep, like if you were to give him anything, what would you say?
Lay off that Texas barbecue, man. I know it's hard. Like they got some really good, they got some good brisket out there. They got good ribs and whatnot, but you got to lay off, like you said, get in the gym, hop on a treadmill, do some cardio. Cause that's been the one thing in addition to what you said, his 3-point shooting, which has been a knock on him, right? Since he entered the league is he needs to improve his 3-point shot. We know he can get to the basket. He's a strong guy. He can finish with contact, but the 3-point shot and the conditioning is going to go a long way, especially in this season. And I know it's a shortened season, but you're playing back to backs. You're playing 2 games in 3 nights, 3 games in 5 nights, and you're plus traveling. And it's like plus we're in the middle of a pandemic, so you really got to take care of yourself. And Luka said himself before the season started, the team that stays the healthiest is going to have the best chance to win. And he was talking more, on the COVID side with that, but part of that also got to be in shape. And with Porzingis, should be coming back, I think, within the next couple of weeks or so, which will help Luka a lot. But in the meantime, he's definitely got to get in shape, and he's actually listed as questionable for tomorrow's game. He has a left quad contusion, according to the injury report this morning. So we'll see if he plays or not. I think there's a good chance he gets held out tomorrow because they play it back to back, and Monday's game is against the Rockets, and I think they'd much rather save him for that game than against the Bulls tomorrow.
Yeah, and I mean, one team that we don't really have to worry about, unlike Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks, are the Phoenix Suns. I mean, we're talking about the best team,
Phoenix, man.
What best team of the Western Conference, and it's not because Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton or Chris Paul are blowing teams out of the water with their scoring, but it's because of their defense, man. It's like they have the best scoring defense in the league so far, and that is something that we didn't expect from the Phoenix Suns. We were expecting them to be blowing out teams with their scoring ability, but my resolution for them is to keep playing defense. I mean, with Chris Paul out there, you can see the way that this team has kind of rallied around their new point guard. And I think that he's a huge part of why that team is trying so hard on defense now. What do you think? What have you thought about the Suns start?
Man, I've been watching the Suns every chance I've gotten. And I'm actually they're one of 4 teams that I have on my list of League Pass teams to watch this year. We're writing an article, so keep an eye out for that soon on the Fine Bet site. But man, like you said, defensively they've been so special, and Chris Paul's been a big part of that. But also, we got to talk about Mikal Bridges, man. He's so special. Ooh. Like 6'7", 6'8" wing, 3-and-D guy. He's shooting 50% from 3 this season. Has yet to turn the ball over. I think he's shooting like over 55% from the floor. And he takes good shots. Like he doesn't force threes. He slashes. Chris Paul has been finding him, and DeAndre Ayton has been coming around a little bit after he had his first couple games a little slow, but he's come around since. And yesterday Chris Paul, Ayton, and Booker combined for I think 65, 68 points. They had 20 points each, and that's the thing. No one's ball hogging. Like the ball moves so well in that system. We got to talk about an early candidate for Coach of the Year, Monty Williams. He's done a great job with his team, and I'll be honest. Last year I was on the free book train. I was like, dude, get my man out of Phoenix. Like Draymond Green was saying, get my man out of Phoenix. But then he returned to the bubble. They went 8-0, and I'm like, man, this team is maybe they just need a point guard. That's literally what I was saying.
Pieces, man. They got some pieces.
And believe it or not, I was saying, dude, this team could really use Chris Paul. I always felt like that was the missing piece for them, was an elite point guard. And Chris Paul has been on the trading block, obviously, for the past couple of seasons. And I was like, man, he would fit in so nicely in Phoenix. And I'm glad they made that move. And so far, like you said, best team in the West at 5-1.
Yeah. And we're talking now. We're going to transition a little bit to the week ahead. Now we're talking about the Suns, and they're facing off against the Clippers, which would be a big test for them tomorrow on January 3rd. They've been facing off against a lot of these, kind of upstart teams, Kings, things like that. I mean, but they also beat Denver. Can they stop a team that may be Western Conference champions in the future? I mean, the Suns have the best scoring defense second in opponent 3-point field goal percentage defense, fourth in blocks, and fourth in steals. The Clippers are first in steals and first in blocks, and fifth in opponent 3-point field goal percentage. That's going to be a pretty crazy matchup for them. I mean, they got to stop Kawhi, they got to stop Paul George, and in any other year, I would say that Booker, Bridges, any of those dudes don't have the weapons they need in order to stop them. But after watching them with the start and having Monty Williams putting them in positions to succeed, like, is it as close as we even think it is?
Man, that's gonna be a really good game. And you mentioned the Suns and their defense. Like, we got to talk about another guy who they just acquired in offseason, Jay Crowder, who's been playing really well so far this season.
Yeah,
his shots been looking more consistent. He's also a good defender, so that matchup, we'll probably see Crowder on Kawhi and then Mikal Bridges on Paul George. And it's going to be tough both ways. Like, one of those two guys on the Clipper side will be guarding Devin Booker. On the other end, Chris Paul will probably get Patrick Beverley to foul out in like the second quarter, so that'll be fun to watch. Yeah, this is gonna be an elite matchup, man. The Clippers I think they've been playing well too so far. As opposed to where they were last season. At this point, they've been doing a very good job moving the ball. Some of the guys that they picked up, Luke Kennard's been off to a slow start, but Batum has looked well. Serge Ibaka has been looking like Serge Ibaka. So they've been. I think the Clippers are starting to gain a little bit more traction and respect. Despite getting blown out by 50 points last week, I had to mention that. Sorry.
Hey, anytime there's a chance for Clipper slander, we got to take it, right? Oh man, I think that Beverly, he puts on his black Air Forces, because there's no way that he's going to win a fair basketball game against Chris Paul this
he's getting cooked.
Sunday.
He's getting cooked.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's going to foul out like that, dude. But another thing that I didn't know was going to happen next week until I looked at it. Dude, it's Hornets Pelicans, man. Ball versus ball. We got Lamelo versus Lonzo.
The ball drop?
The ball drop. I mean, so they're definitely going to guard each other, right? I mean, we're talking a 6'8" point guard with a 6'6" point guard. They're definitely going to be matched up. Lamelo, he is shooting 45.5% from three-point range, 11.2 points in 21.4 minutes. But he's been getting steady minutes increases every game since the beginning of the season. So he's going to get a little bit more juiced up for this one for sure. And I think the coach is going to allow him to have a little more freedom. Lonzo, he's struggling with the shot a little bit. I mean, 39.7% from the field and 28.6% from the field. But he's 10th in defensive rating overall. So it's like he's already impacting the game without his offense being there. So in this battle of brother versus brother, who do you see going out on top?
Ooh, I'm going to give the edge. I think LaMelo will have the better performance, but I think the Pelicans will come out with a win in the game just because they're the better team. But LaMelo, man, like you said, I think he's going to get the edge of them just because I feel like he has that dog in him that Lonzo doesn't really have. I know Lonzo's a competitor and he wants to win. He's, both of them are unselfish players. They're always looking for, the pass first as opposed to shoot first. But Lonzo's never really shown that side of him where he has like that toughness or that grit. And we saw that since like day one when he was with the Lakers. Remember when Patrick Beverley was hounding him and he like fouled him and kind of got Lonzo to the court and kind of let Lonzo know like, hey, this is welcome to the big leagues, and Lonzo's not the type of guy to like get into someone's face, and that happened a couple times, man. Early when he was with the Lakers, like remember the whole Brandon Ingram incident with the fight and the Chris Paul and Harden, and like Lonzo was like on the opposite side of that.
Lonzo nowhere to be found on that one.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you got LaMelo and out in Lithuania throwing hands, like with grown men. Well, he's only like 17, 18. So, like I said, he got that dog in him, and I think he's while they're both gonna be looking forward to it, and like they know it's gonna be a fun matchup. I think LaMelo is gonna his competitiveness is gonna come out a little bit more, and it's gonna give him the edge, and he'll have a better all around game.
Yeah, I mean, now that we think about it, if they do get matched up to it, do you think Lonzo has to like put an elbow in him, like just to tell him that I love you to death, but this is a man's game now, And, like, do you think that he actually does that? Because I think that's kind of what needs to happen in order for Lonzo to just like let him know that this is the league now. It's not our backyard.
Even if Lonzo threw an elbow, he's the type of guy that after he throw that elbow, he'd be like, "Hey, you okay, man? I'm sorry. Like I didn't mean to do that." Like,
Stop.
I'm telling you, man. Like I love Lonzo. I wanted the Lakers to draft him. I loved him coming out of UCLA. Actually, I got to watch him play in the Pac-12 tournament that year too when he was a freshman. So I love Lonzo, but that's the one thing, like I don't care about like his shooting and stuff. Like that can all get better. But like you gotta to play in the NBA, man, to play in the league, like you gotta have that chip on your shoulder. You gotta have that dog mentality. That takes you a long way. And like guys know who has it and who doesn't have it, and they know Lonzo don't have it.
Damn. All right, biting criticism, but we're done. That's it, folks. That's it for this first episode of the new year. This episode 3 of The Key is over. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out our work at finebet.com. We will see you next week.